Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome back to the Romans podcast 2026, the first episode of 2026. It's kind of interesting because we're actually filming this on New Year's Eve during the day, and it obviously, as you're listening to it now, I'm guessing, in the new year 2026. And of course, we have had a little bit of a hiatus over the Christmas period. And of course, because it's Christmas period, we've had a lot of students that are not here as such. So today it's just going to be hosted by me, the president of BCFC Society, and my vice president here, hello. Co-host, Ollie.
Hello.
Yeah, so but both me and him were at the Salisbury and Torquay games as well, so we've got insights on that. We both missed Chippenham on Boxing Day, but I mean, looking at the result of that one, probably was for the better. But yeah, we've both seen the highlights of that as well, so we'll also give an insight on that game as well. But starting off with Salisbury, I think that performance, right, going into the Christmas break, that was one of the best home performances I think I have seen from Bath City since I started watching them, to be honest.
I mean, I saw a completely new side to Bath when we were playing on that game as well. Just straight out the gate, straight into them, and Bath just played in just brilliantly. We looked like we really wanted the 3 points. We wanted to show Salisbury who we were. We knew that they were going to be bringing a load of fans. A load of fans were going to be coming up, and we'll get into that in a second. A load of fans were going to be coming up, and Bath were going to have to prove the point and really fight to get these crucial 3 points, which where we are in the table, wins are essential. So it was a great time, and we were stood behind the goal, which was a new one because...
Yeah, well, first half, for sure, yeah. Both the goals I think we saw from behind the goal, outside in the open terrace area.
And that is a very new experience, and as the fact that... so when me and Oscar showed up at Twerton Park, we were told the game was going to be segregated. We thought the game was going to be segregated, and then when we turned up, the Salisbury fans ended up in the home stand, which was a very interesting one. So that led us to stand behind the goal, which was a new one. Where me and Oscar usually underneath the roof, because that's where we want to be loud. We want us to be shouting the chants, and still we had a great view. We had a great view of both goals, right behind the goal. Always an amazing view for both goals, and they
were both fantastic finishes as well. You know, poachers finishes from Owen Windsor. He is becoming a natural poacher, I think, for us up front.
Exactly.
I think the one thing as a strike, and this is not a criticism at all, the one thing that would make him an absolutely class striker for this league is just a bit more physicality, I think.
Exactly.
I think he is fantastic at the end product. He's fantastic with pace-wise. He's fantastic at getting himself in the right areas. But it's the 50-50 duels where he tends to lose out on the aerial duels and that as well. If he could, work on that a lot more, then we've got a new Cody Cook right there, you know?
Exactly. I mean, and one thing that I do like about him as well is that he's got pace as well. He's got determination. When you see him up
and he works well with Ash as well. It's like he kind of for when we lost Tabor, of course, when he went back to Swindon, he was kind of a natural replacement for Tabor in a way. He had the same level of pace and obviously the same sort of link-up play he has with Ash, you know?
Exactly. And obviously hearing the name Jake Tabor for some reason feels a bit nostalgic, even though we only had him on a short-term loan. But still, I mean, he has been great for us. I don't know, how many games has he got for us? How many goals has he got for us for another game now?
I think in most of the games that Windsor has started, he has scored in. I think there might be one game, one or two games he started in which he didn't score. Obviously, he didn't score in Torquay because it was a 0-0 draw.
No.
And he didn't score in Maidstone either because we lost that game 2-0. But I think besides those two games, I don't think I can name a single game where Windsor started and didn't score. I mean, even against Chippenham, which was an awful performance for us, scored a cracking goal there, down the left-hand side, found a lot of space, finishes it on a little run at goal.
And that's what I've been saying. We've been needing that sort of crucial finisher for a while. Obviously, you've got your players on the pitch. You've got your Joey Rains who likes to cut inside and launch it. You got your Alves, who's just a wonder to see playing on the pitch, especially our game yesterday against especially against our last game. But against Torquay, I don't know why Torquay left my brain there for a second. Against Torquay, the way you just saw him playing on the pitch was just brilliant. His footwork was amazing. You got them, you got that, and also, we really do miss Pell and Will Jenkins-Davies. Pell has only played like a game and a quarter, and already I miss him.
Well, I can't lie. I know how we brought up that Salisbury was probably the best home display we've had for a long time, and I think Harry Pell was largely because of that. And I mean, you saw the first half of Chippenham as well. We were still on top there, and then Harry Pell gets injured, and suddenly it felt like the whole game plan
Game shifted.
The whole game plan kind of for the Salisbury game worked around Pell, and then we tried to do the same at Chippenham, and then Pell got a bad injury. I've heard rumours that from Matt, Gorilla City Slaps, that he knows someone on the medical team, and he says it does look like it could be another ACL injury, and Pell recently has had an ACL injury at Cheltenham, which ruled him out of his return to Cheltenham in the Football League, and that's why he came to us in the first place. So, that's just the risk you get with those kind of players, is that they're such amazing players, and they're obviously much better than this standard, but they're kind of at this standard in the first place because of injury troubles. It's always like when a player's come down from Football League, it's either because they're old and they've got injury troubles at that late age in their career, like Pell, or they're a young player who didn't quite make it into the first spot for that club and have sort of come back down a level to try and rebuild their career up, like Will Jenkins-Davis, for example. Like, he couldn't quite make Plymouth in like their main team, but he's come down to us, and I think he's going to build his way back up to Football League eventually. I think I can definitely see him get back to at least League Two.
Exactly, but
at some point.
Exactly, but I just want to say, with obviously, I'm looking. I could not be looking more forward to seeing Will Jenkins-Davies and Pell returning, because they're both. You can see, again, no disrespect to any players of the team, they all play brilliantly, and like you see some shining performances from everyone. But when some of our crucial players are missing, you can tell. Like we were talking about in the Torquay game last night, because we were going up against a team that is near top of the league and we're near bottom of the league. For us just to go into half time 0-0, that was an accomplishment. We really held up. We really showed.
I actually thought we were like, there was times in that game where we were on top, I thought, but I think a lot of us being on top actually came from us just applying the pressure to their back line. I didn't think Torquay's goalkeeper was that good at all with his distribution. I think a lot of our chances came from applying that pressure on the goalkeeper, and I think we realised that. And all of his balls would just go straight up to our players, and then we'd reset and come forward, and won a few free kicks as well. I think the main chance I remember us having in that match was Alves getting a good free kick in a good area, goes low around the wall, and it's just a routine stop for the goalkeeper. But we just dealt with them good 50-50, and the defence in that game was very good as well. That's the exact defence we needed for Chippenham, and we didn't. It's almost like we came out of Chippenham, we realised how poorly we defended that one, and we were like, right, we're going into Torquay. They're a big club. They're like, they're fighting for the title basically. So the way you play against these lot, low line, low block, and then if something falls your way, it falls your way.
Exactly. And I just want to say, because we'll get on to obviously like performances from like all the players from like different games, but most definitely I think that there is one player who did a brilliant job, but another player I think he did a great job was Harvey Wells-Richards.
Yeah,
when I saw him playing, like for distribution, I never really thought was Harvey's things, and on corners, Harvey does worry me at times. He is great with the corners, but at times I do get scared. But his distribution in the recent game against Torquay was brilliant. He had some great balls. He sent some great things midfield.
Well, I think it's a really smart idea what Darren is doing with the goalkeepers at the moment, because obviously we saw Charlie Binns come into the team. Charlie Binns, excellent penalty saver, excellent distribution, excellent shot stopper. Like, he looked like the man to replace Harvey. But what Darren's done now, Binns had a bit of an illness for the Salisbury game. Harvey came into the side. Harvey's played the last 3 matches now. I think what he's trying to do here is he's trying to rotate his goalkeepers. So, like, Binns plays the cup matches, FA Trophy, and then like the odd league game as well. And then Harvey comes in for quite a lot of the other league games. Like, it's a good way of like having that competition still open without dropping one goalkeeper to the bench, saying you have to work hard to get your starting place back, rather than he's giving Binns enough game time, he's giving Wells-Richards enough game time. It's a difficult situation because we'd love to keep them both, but at this level, 2 quality keepers like that is very hard to keep into your side, like having 2 amazing goalkeepers. But I think how we're managing it right now, Harvey came in. I think he was good against Chippenham. I think the one thing that he struggles on, Harvey, is penalty saving, and I think that's the one thing that Binns definitely has an edge over Harvey of. I think the one thing I realised, I saw this video on TikTok of like the last 8 penalties that Harvey was up against, and he dived the same way. He dived left 7 out of those 8 penalties. So I don't know whether it's just he guesses or he's stronger at diving to one side, But teams recognise this and they recognise repeated pattern. Like every team has their like little sheet of saying where a goalkeeper would dive for a penalty or whatever. But with Binns, I think what he does is he waits for the kick first and then he goes to do it. Because in this league, they hit it at, obviously they still hit it really powerfully, but they hit it at a power which is easier to get to by waiting for the kick. And I think if Harvey started waiting for the kick, then he'd have the same penalty saving abilities as Binns does. I think what they should do, they shouldn't compete against each other, those two goalkeepers. They should learn from each other. And if they learn from each other, then, like one of them gets injured, one of them gets sent off. Doesn't matter because they're as good as each other,
Exactly. But I like the fact that Darren clearly has, and we can see it, Darren clearly has faith in both of his keepers for knowing what they're capable of as well. Harvey is still an amazing goalkeeper and has saved us from some critical things. And as well, he always the thing is, what I've noticed with Harvey as well is because a lot of the times we'll pass back to Harvey as well, and you kind of go, oh no, they're pressing, and then Harvey does something filthy. Harvey will just slowly let it come to him and then catch it.
He's certainly much more relaxed on the ball. I think there are times where that relaxation probably gets a bit too relaxed. Like there have been incidents of that, like Dorking game where he, kicked it straight into the Dorking player. Yeah. Did get wrongfully sent off, but even then it was his mistake that led to that.
Exactly.
I think it's good to be relaxed in those situations, and when it does pay off, it pays off very well because he just, he has a cool head. I think another thing that he maybe struggles on a little bit is his height as well. You look at Binns and in this sort of league, you need a man-mountain goalkeeper because there's going to be a lot of long throws. There's going to be a lot of high corners delivered in because it's very physical league. It's very height-dominated league. And Binns, as well as penalty saves, has the height advantage over Harvey, and he's better at claiming from corners. But again, there's good things about both keepers, and there's things that they can both learn on. Yes, Harvey's not exactly tall, but there's other means of him practicing different ways to get corners or free kicks out, such as punching or proper parrying away, just being unafraid to go for it. Yes, you're a smaller man, but with a little bit of height on a jump, you got the same abilities there.
Exactly. All right, so I want to see if we can with these 3 games that we have, should we talk about the positives and the negatives that we've had?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we'll start with Salisbury. I'll name one positive from that game and one negative. Mm-hmm. Actually, I don't think there is any negatives from how we played against Salisbury. There is obviously a massive negative, which I'm going to get on in a second. We don't usually in these podcasts tend to want to branch away from anything football related, but I think there's a big thing that we need to talk about the aftermath of that Salisbury game, which is absolutely outrageous, but we'll get on to that in a little bit. Positive, as I said, it was one of the best home performances I've seen from that game. I think Chippenham, there's a lot more positives and negatives to take away. I think a positive was that when Pell was on the pitch, we played a lot through him, and we certainly have the ability, if we put a different player in his position and they learn how to do that position, there's definitely a possibility that we can just outplay teams out the park, and I think a negative though was the fact that we decided to base all our game plan around him. Yeah. Because we didn't factor in for the fact that he might have got injured, and he got injured, and the way we played the rest of that game was just abysmal, really. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say it, but abysmal, I think how it was we'd done our best performance at home I've ever seen, and then probably our worst performance away I've ever seen, back to back, and that's just how this league works, I think being completely honest, I mean, we weren't at the Chippenham game, but I saw the highlights and I listened to the radio, and everything from what I heard and saw, they're bottom of the league. I know it's a derby game, so they've maybe got a bit more fight and passion about them, a larger crowd to impress, but realistically, it is a game that we should have just taken in our grasps within the opening 20 minutes. We scored the goal from Owen Windsor. I'm yes, that's routine. I'm expecting that. Fantastic. Perfect. We're 1-0 up. Yeah. I genuinely thought once we went 1-0 up, this might actually be the first time in our season that we just play our opponents out the park and win 3-0, 4-0. But, yes, the injury happened, and that is an excuse. But as I said, just because one player gets injured, this team does not focus around one player. It's a team job, and I think there was maybe a little bit of lack of belief after Chippenham equalised, that they're the game plan player is injured now, what are we going to do?
Exactly.
I think they. I mean, obviously, I'm just like speculating that it might not have been this way, but I just feel like maybe the players should have just taken a bit more initiative and maybe worked out a way with Darren to sort of
No, exactly.
go into that second half.
I mean, and again, like this was said earlier, but like when a player goes missing, or like when there's a player that we have on the pitch that is just so crucial to the way we do something, and then they're gone. Again, some of the players can look lost, and they go, "Well, our plan was we were going to work with him, or we were going to do midfield, and now our main midfielder's gone. This is a problem." And then the boys freak out a little bit, and then you start to lose your heads. But yes, I mean, yeah, obviously when you lose Pell, that was a big one, and then the boys just looked like at the start we looked good, we looked strong, and then second half we didn't know what we were doing, and then we bring it back. It's a tie.
Yeah, quality free kick as well, by the way. I think the free kick was certainly another positive to take away from that game.
That free kick. I know that Matt, again, Gorilla, said when I spoke to him that he was screaming and they were running down. They were doing a us at Worthing. They were screaming, running, and hugging. They were doing all of that. And only for a couple of minutes later for the Bath City bad luck right at the end. Unfortunately.
90 plus 5.
90 plus 5.
I mean, that's another negative I'll say is that, like, it's happened too often now. Like, once was bad enough. You know, I think the first time I recall that happening this season was at Farnborough, where we scored the equaliser and then we conceded at the other end. And then it seems to happen about 3 or 4 games after that on, like, a streak of it.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, I know, like, it's something that Darren came up to us personally and he said, this is something that we really just need to work on with the team. And he's like, it's just that final bit of the game where you just got to see it over the line. We managed it against Torquay perfectly. It's almost like, I think how we played against Torquay in that 0-0 draw, we kind of just weren't really concerned about seeing out the result. No. I think when the players then become concerned about seeing out a result, they panic and they overthink it. You know, like when we were 0-0, we were kind of just relaxed. We were just kind of just taking the game, the flow of the game as it came. We weren't like frantically defending, you know, getting the ball out, like frantically going into tackles in midfield to try and win us the ball back. We're just much more relaxed. I don't think it's necessarily they get tired or they don't have the ability to see out a game, but they think this has happened to us before, we're cursed. They get into the mindset that they're cursed, and it's a dangerous mindset to get into because when you think that way, you know,
it happens.
Things like that will occur because you're starting to think, right, we got to break the curse now. And then the curse. I mean, this is a weird comparison, but I always used to think when I used to play like Football Manager or FIFA Career Mode, I guess more FIFA because you're more in control of the players. I'd always be like, oh, the game's so scripted or whatever. Like I always concede in the last minute. But then whenever I just wouldn't think about conceding in the last minute, I wouldn't.
No, it's a game. The game is about mindset. You can say whatever it's about, but the game is about mindset. You can have an amazing player that has got all the skills, all the tips, the tricks, everything, and then you put him in a thinking of like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to do this, or oh no, I need to score this goal in order to keep us at, you know, mindset can mess with a player. And again, as you said, the Torquay game, it was a game where the boys weren't worrying about anything. They were letting the game just go how it was going. They had the ball in attack. All right, let's go and attack. We've lost it. They're charging. All right, now let's move back and let's try and get the ball back. You know, it was a game of, it was tick-attacker, essentially. It was like, all right, you've got it, now I've got it. Now you've got it, now I've got it. You know, it was a game. They say all the time.
It's also whenever we go 2-0 up in a game, like, you know, Tottenham, Eastbourne, Salisbury, they're all 2-0 wins that we've had at home this season. As soon as we grab that second goal, there's no like panicking in the defence whatsoever, really. No. You know, you get a few like chances of the other team, we get it out, or like there's a few like goal and clearance in that Salisbury game, of course, from Parcell. But when we've got a 1-goal lead, we just look so much more like fragile, and we're like, oh, we have to do this. But really, if we just played the same way when we were winning by 1 goal as we were when we were winning by 2 goals, yes, you know, like if you concede, it's like, you know, the game's pulled back. But at the same time, as you said, mindset. It's all about mindset.
It is all about mindset. It is, honestly, mindset can decide. This sounds like I'm just re-repeating what you said, but mindset can decide exactly how a game goes. Not necessarily just about the players or the tactics. It's, I mean, even though those are big, big things, it is always about how the players are feeling right there in the moment, how much they want to win the game, what they're fighting for, what they're going on there and playing for. that can all decide it. And again, with these 3 games, we have seen 3 different sets of mindsets. We've seen in the Salisbury game, we see the boys coming out fighting and going into winning the game. And then when you see them at 2-0, second half, the boys were playing comfortably. They knew how Salisbury were playing. We knew who we were going up against, and it was great. Chippenham, again, that was the same sort of thing. We went on, we fought well, got in, Windsor, first goal, it was great. And then when something goes wrong, or where something happens that the Bath players are not prepared for, Bath are thinking, what do we do now? And then the game does not go away. We try and fight, we keep fighting, and we do win it, and then our bad luck comes back to bite us, which is a...
Yeah. I mean, realistically, it's not a curse. It's not bad luck. I mean, sometimes it is with referee decisions, I guess, but we're thinking more about just conceding late on here. It's not a curse. It's not bad luck. It's not really even complacency. Sometimes it is. It's more just mindset. It's mentality. And it's like, if they just are a bit more relaxed, just take things easy, it will work a lot better. And that's exactly what we saw against Torquay. You know, any other game, Torquay, like, it'll be a very tense 95 because they're like, oh my God, we got a 0-0 draw here against one of the league title favourites. But they weren't thinking that way. You could tell they weren't, because they were still going forward towards the end of the game. They weren't just dropping everyone back and flying in needlessly into challenges. But I mean, moving on now, just because like time-wise, one thing I wanted to get in earlier, and when we spoke about this Salisbury, we never want to, you know, branch off from the football side of things in the podcast, and whenever we have to do, it's usually for a negative reason such as this. And I think this is like absolutely appalling for how the Salisbury fans acted. And I know that the clubs have taken it up with Salisbury FC for their younger fan base, let's say, for how they were behaving in that, you know, that Bath takeover, let's say, when they were here. There was incidents in the city. Few fans were followed home, and I guess things were vandalised. They were kicking a bus on the street. They they tore down a banner inside the ground. Everyone saw that. Not only did they tear down a banner, but they took a photo of it with all their faces showing as if it was something to be proud of.
Fresh out primary school.
Yeah. Well, you know, it is disgraceful, and I can't believe that we've got football at this level, because this is football at this level, like this sort of thing happening, like, because this sort of thing, right? If this sort of thing doesn't get handled appropriately by Salisbury FC, which they absolutely should do, like, they need to release a club statement. If they don't, it's an absolute failure on their part. If I'm being honest, like, this sort of thing, like, cannot happen at this level, because it's going to get to a point. We saw the Torquay game yesterday. Obviously, it was segregated and no alcohol was being served. It's going to get to a point where it's going to be these young fans that are going to ruin the privileges for the rest of the league, basically. And I think Salisbury, their older and more mature fan base, that they need to recognise this themselves. And it's the people within that club that can make a difference. It's not the sort of league where you can go to Enterprise National League, file a sort of complaint being like, you know, Salisbury behaved in this way, because it's too low a level for them to really care about that sort of thing. All club matters like this are handled by the clubs and internally within the club. So this sort of thing has to be handled appropriately by the people within Salisbury, and also just the other Salisbury fans, as I said, the more mature bunch of them, because it's going to get to a point, right? This is not like the only game this has happened. It's happened in several games this season, you know, like Farnborough versus Dorking. I read a lot about that, and I watched the Bunch of Amateurs episode of literally a fight starting in the first minute in the stands, in the stadium, which is insane. Obviously, first game of the season, Worthing done the same, and Worthing have released a club statement like this season about their fan behaviour. They've always kind of had an issue with it more than other teams, but it's like, it's going to get to a stage, right, because it's always this young demographic. There's these sort of 14 to 15-year-old sort of age range. It's going to get to a point where alcohol is going to be stopped being served at grounds, because I think that's a key factor for it, because obviously I think a lot of these football grounds, they don't actually ID they don't actually ID like the people going up and buying the drinks, which is a problem. Yeah. Because when you're not IDing people going up for a drinks, there is literally a legal reason why the legal drinking age is 18, and it's actually being proven at these football games, because like the sort of like level of aggression this sort of age range, like me and you, we've both been 14, 15, and you know, like you can get a bit edgy at that sort of age, for sure.
Don't even remind me, but,
so we never go back to that,
never go back to that,
it is something that both the league need to sort out with, like just saying clubs that need to start IDing these sort of people. But even then, I don't even think alcohol was mostly to blame for this either. I think a lot of the people like this that go to football games are not there for the football. No. Like Salisbury absolutely got outplayed out the park. They probably went to that game knowing they'd lose for the form they were in. And I think somebody overheard them as they were leaving the ground that they wanted to do over some Bath fans, and it was a wrong claim from them that it was a Bath fan that started it, because I can guarantee you that there was not a single Bath fan that told them they wanted to scrap outside the ground. I'll tell you exactly how it went. They were waiting on the curb on Twerton High Street. They were waiting for Bath fans to pass. Like, you know, you give a bit of like banter, like in the ground, like with chants and that. And they you know, a lot of serious things like were taken, like a lot of like, and I can't go into too much detail because obviously it's still a matter being dealt with, but there was a lot of different things that happened. It wasn't just they were kicking around or following Bath fans home. They were like fully harassing like members of the public, you know, all this sort of thing. And it's absolutely disgraceful.
It's actually
we don't want to talk about this sort of thing, but at this level, it's absolutely disgraceful that this sort of thing has to happen. And I know that Salisbury aren't the only club like this, and it's something that clubs internally need to deal with. I know it's like it's a league where a lot of people don't really have time, and like a lot of people who run these clubs have different jobs. But literally, there's so many different ways around this. Stadium bans are needed for them if they continue this behaviour. At least a warning of a stadium ban, because I still have a sort of, I guess, like heart in me to say that, you know, they're still going to the games. They still are obviously putting money into going to the games, even if they're going to act like proper idiots at the games. So they still, you know, they're giving money to the club and they're supporting the club. But how they're behaving, it shouldn't be like this. No. And if there should be at least a warning for this sort of behaviour, say this can't go on, otherwise we will ban you. Give that warning first. If it continues, then they get the ban. I'm sorry, because at that point, like, you know, you've been warned. Been warned.
Exactly. But I do just want to say, because obviously we know what this is like, but this brings disgrace to this great sport, because this sport is a sport where people go, they work hard, and then they want to go see a game where they're with other people and enjoy this sport. And having people, especially, and it's not old people, because there are people there with their families, especially when we went to the Torquay game. Most of the people there that were in the away end were family people and old people, middle-aged people. Didn't matter. Like, even adults.
Yeah, and there was a bit of banter going back between the fans. That's exactly what it's about, you know. Like, within a football ground, right? I know, like some of the chants maybe go a little bit over the top. That's for certain.
It does, yeah.
But like, you know,
in the moment,
for the vast majority of chants, it's classic, you know, football back and forth banter in the ground. Whatever happens in the ground stays in the ground. Exactly. You leave. Exactly. And, I mean, right, football hooliganism for a start. Like, these Salisbury fans. I know they did the same at Tottenham, but I think that was more of a two-way thing where Tottenham fans actively like wanted to do the same to them and, you know, start a fight outside the ground. You know, if that's how it's going to be, then so be it. You're going to get those idiots. But it's when like innocent people, innocent members of the public and innocent fans who want nothing to do with it are targeted, like at Salisbury, like what Worthing sometimes do as well. Like, when it's people who have nothing to do with this sort of thing whatsoever, that's where it absolutely crosses the line. It crosses the line to begin with, but this is where it absolutely crosses the line. It's absolutely not on, and I don't hope they get banned, because I do still believe in second chances, but I do think they need a firm telling off. And they'll definitely get a ban from Twerton Park Stadium. That's without a question. I don't think they should get a ban from Salisbury games, because they are still supporters. No. But if they are going to continue like this, then I think Salisbury as a football club need to take action.
Exactly. But with this as well, because what happens in the ground, it does stay in the ground. But you say like, oh, those people, you know, their team is, you know, whatever, and then it's the ground. The game's over. You won, you lost, you tied, whatever. And then it's an innocent person walking home. It's a group of people walking home that were just having a nice family day out, and then they're chased by a group of by a group of guys in ski masks, or what if one of them has a knife or something? It comes to a point where it gets ridiculous. They're not football fans. They're not hooligans. They're criminals.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly where it gets like nerve-wracking for those sort of people when it's the fans who want nothing to do with it. It's like if they start like, you know, getting aggressive with you and you have to self-defend yourself, and then like it escalates from there, then it's basically, you know, you're running into trouble without even wanting, like, people, like, it's a safety issue for these games. And I am going to like firmly call out Salisbury, because I think how the matter's being dealt internally there, from what I've heard, I'm not going to give out any information because obviously it's still a private matter between the clubs, but how it's being held there is absolutely disgraceful. And Salisbury fans need to like, I mean, Salisbury as a club need to listen to me when I say this. How you are handling the matter of your fans right now is absolutely disgraceful, and I hope you listen to every single bit of this, and I hope you take this into consideration. I hope you listen to all our points, and you move forward and try and sort out these issues, because if you're going to keep doing these issues, you're going to get a reputation for this. Everyone is going to shame on you as a football club, and it's completely unfair because there's several fans who support Salisbury who I'm sure are lovely people who just want to go and watch football games, and it's these group of fans that are ruining it for the rest of them. I remember at that Salisbury game when they were over at Twerton Park, there was a few older Salisbury fans like just near the bar who spoke to a bar fan and said they were absolutely appalled with how their younger fans were behaving.
It's not. Yeah, exactly. It's the people that go there not to watch the game. Half the time when you see them acting up, you go, you're not here to watch the sport. You're here just to start a fight. And I go whenever I go to a game, I go purely because I love the game, and a bit of banter lets out some personal stuff maybe, but you don't do this sort of thing. You don't cause outrages. You don't try and start fights. Have a little joke. Have a little all that sort of stuff. Yeah. That's part of the beautiful game. But you don't do this. And again, like you said, I am with you on this. Salisbury, you do really need to release a statement on this, because the way how they were acting.
At the very least, they release a statement. At the very least, you release a statement. At the very most, you ban them. Somewhere in between, you release a statement and a warning to all those fans saying if you continue it, you ban them. I think that's exactly the way to handle this. That's exactly how I'd handle it if I was an owner. And if the owner doesn't do this, then shame on you.
It's really going to reflect on the game. But I will say, I don't know how much time we do have left, but I do want to say really quickly that it was definitely picked up. I think especially with the staff at Twerton Park, they knew that after...
Oh yeah, well, Bath are definitely handling it well.
After Bath have handled it amazingly well, I would say what they did after the Salisbury game, they realised that could have been handled way better. We did not prepare for this, and in that Torquay, I have not seen a segregated game like that. I mean, it was. Yeah. I was surprised of how amazing the turnout was.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I do kind of protect that decision though. That like obviously Salisbury did still have a lot, but only about a third, if that, of what Torquay had. And I think when it's a third, if that, like, there's probably a reason not to segregate it, because when clubs segregate, obviously, the law of like, you know, football law, for some reason, I looked it up the other day, is that it's absolutely illegal to sell alcohol at segregated games. And I mean, I don't really understand that, because I actually think that probably having a segregated game actually is better for drinking, because then you're not going to run into any trouble inside the ground. But I think when it's segregated, people maybe get into a bit more of a back and forth mood, maybe. Exactly. And I think I kind of the reason I respect the decision for them not to segregate the Salisbury game is because obviously they still wanted to sell alcohol, and selling alcohol makes a lot of money for the club, and obviously they wanted to still have that same experience for home fans and not allow the small minority to ruin it, you know.
But then the coffee stand gets a bit more money, and that was nice for me. Although I ruined my own coffee, I'd pour too much milk in it because I'm blind. But ignoring my poor coffee making skills, it was. I think it did handle it a lot better. And again, I think they were way more prepared for if anything did happen. Obviously, you had the police there, you had ambulance there, you had a lot more people going around making sure everyone was all right and safe. And then we did see in the Torquay lot there was maybe like a small group of the younger ones again, trying to start stuff again, and then they were like, no, knock it off.
Yeah, I mean, the difference is, you know, they didn't really do anything outside the ground as far as I'm aware.
They didn't, no.
It's the people who take it outside the ground, and also the people who just get aggressive inside the ground. Like, if it's back and forth banter, and it's like, you know...
That's fine.
It was still a lot of banter with Torquay. It wasn't like they actually wanted to actively start fights with us or follow anyone home or whatever.
No.
It's Salisbury though. But I mean, moving on from that anyway, like as I said, we don't want to put a downer on the podcast because it's not something we'd usually want to talk about, and it's not something we would usually talk about.
No.
But it is an issue that has come up at this game, and it is something that we feel like the need to address, to publicly speak out about this sort of thing, because it can't go on like this, can it?
It can.
Yeah.
That was set up perfectly.
Yeah.
But it's again, like, we don't want to talk, obviously with this podcast, we want to talk about mostly about the games, how we felt about them, the positives, negatives, and not more the positives than the negatives, and then get other fans' insights and just hope to see what we can. But with this, it honestly is just such a horrid thing that we've had to have talked about it. So.
Yeah. I mean, just capping off the podcast here very quickly. Obviously 2025 was the first full year of Darren Way being in charge. Basically is his whole time being in charge, besides, the tail end of 2024. I mean, obviously 2025 as a year as a whole, as I said, I think there's certainly improvements there from Jerry Gill, and I think like improvements from the Jerry Gill era. I mean, Jerry Gill's not done any improvements.
No, exactly.
Screw him. Very good improvement. Like as Darren Way's lovely guy, lovely coach. By all means, fans continue backing him in 2026. There's certainly a vision there. I know it's not always the easiest of times being a part-time club, going up against so many professional teams nowadays. And, with like our budget, our finances, we're not one of the richest clubs in the league. But going into 2026, I'm completely confident. I mean, obviously, we are still towards the bottom. So it's going to be maybe a little bit of a scrap out of relegation again. But, I'm sure we'll manage it, and if we do manage it, we're getting better and better season by season. And I think there's a lot of players that are in our club who are fantastic, who are fully behind the project.
But see what Darren's doing, as well as the fact that Darren, even though we are scrapping to get out of the relegation zone, Darren is keeping us in a very good place in the league at the moment as well, and he's promising us a cup run. He's giving us a very good cup run. Bath v Southend, which is coming up very, very soon. We already know, if we thought that Torquay was a rammed attendance, we just know that Southend is just going to
they'll bring at least 2K. I think they'll probably take up the whole of the Bristol end. They will. I mean, Torquay only had half of them. Torquay had a lot, and they only had half the Bristol end and the family stand. Southend will take up everything. I think a lot of Bath fans will be at that game as well. So I'm like, that is my most anticipated game so far for 2026. Is only about 10 days into 2026, and. Wow, boy, I'm looking forward to it.
My most anticipated one is just not for personal reasons. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's Bath v Worthing. We're gonna run it back. It's gonna be a fun one. That's
first game of the season. Like the drama on that first game of the season was fantastic. It's still one of my all-time favorites.
One of my most prized memories.
So I'm looking forward to the reverse fixture of that one. Although seeing the form Worthing are in, we might have to play it out a bit like the Torquay game again. I'll tell you that much.
We might do, but we'll run it back and we will see.
Anyway, I think we'll cap off the podcast a little bit over time, but obviously first episode of the new year, 2026. We've got a lot of good hopes for 2026. Hopefully FA Trophy run continues. Hopefully we climb our way up the table, which I'm sure we will do. Hopefully injuries don't affect us too much, as they have done over the Christmas period and a little bit before that as well. And referee decisions, of course, as well. We don't want any more of them. Don't get Ayrton Hersey back refereeing a Bath game, and we'll be all right. I'm joking. He had a bad game. I'm not personally attacking him, but thank you very much for listening to the Romans podcast. Back now, we think weekly. We probably will do weekly, I reckon. Again, and Ollie, thank you very much. You've been a pleasure to have on again, as always.
Exactly. It always is.
Always is. Thank you very much, and we'll see you for the next episode. Goodbye.